Capítulo 1. The First Step. Have you ever felt a staircase breathing beneath your feet? Not creaking from old wood, not settling from age, but breathing, like a lung hidden inside the bones of a building. That's the sound I heard the very first night I moved in. The landlord had called it charmingly vintage, but when I pushed open the heavy door of the old apartment complex, it didn't feel vintage. It felt abandoned. The smell of damp concrete clung to the walls, and the single light bulb in the lobby flickered as if it was gasping its last breath. And then I saw it. The staircase. A massive spiral climbing into darkness, its iron railing cold and slick as if someone had licked it clean. Dust layered the steps, but there was something wrong. No matter how high I tilted my head, I couldn't see the top. It just kept going. That night as I unpacked, I told myself I wouldn't think about it. But around midnight I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. They rose from the bottom floor, echoing through the hollow spine of the building. I froze. The sound drew closer, spiraling upward, floor by floor. I opened my apartment door and looked out. The staircase was empty, yet the footsteps continued, climbing, until they reached my floor. And then, silence. My chest tightened. My hand trembled on the doorknob. Then came a whisper, soft as silk, brushing against my ear, though no one stood near me. Take the first step. I slammed the door shut, but the whisper didn't end. It slipped beneath the wood, slithered into the cracks of the walls, and settled into my bones. It repeated again and again, a lullaby from a mouth I couldn't see. Take the first step. Take the first step. Sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself placing a foot on that first dusty stair, and something pulling me upward, higher and higher into a place I could never return from. By dawn, I had made up my mind. If I didn't confront it, the staircase would own me. So, barefoot and shaking, I opened my door. The iron railing glistened with moisture, though no one had touched it. The air was cold enough to bite my skin. And there, on the very first step, lay something that hadn't been there the night before. A single footprint, fresh, wet, pointing upward. And I swear it wasn't mine. Capítulo 2. The door at the landing. The footprint haunted me. It wasn't just a mark in the dust. It was a command, a dare carved into the silence of the building. By morning, I couldn't resist anymore. My fear had curdled into something else, curiosity poisoned with dread. So I placed my foot on the first step. The wood moaned, as if the staircase recognized me. With each step, the air grew colder. My breathing became louder, desperate, like I was trespassing in a place that didn't belong to the living. And then I saw it. A door. It shouldn't have been there. This staircase was supposed to rise floor by floor, connecting apartments. But halfway up, a narrow landing jutted out like a tongue, and at the end of it stood a single door. Its wood was blackened, warped, as though it had been scorched in a fire no one remembered. The handle gleamed, untouched by dust, waiting for my hand. I reached out, and the moment my skin brushed the metal, a shiver cut through me, sharp and electric. Behind the door, something moved. I didn't hear it, I felt it. Like a presence pressing its palm against mine, begging me to open. I turned the knob. The hinges groaned, and the door creaked open to reveal nothing. No room, no floor, no walls. Just a void, an endless abyss stretching into black, its air rushing outward like the breath of something ancient and hungry. I should have run, but my body froze, caught in the pull of that impossible emptiness. My reflection shimmered faintly in the black, as though the void itself was a mirror, showing me a version of myself standing inside it. Then it spoke, my own voice, from the darkness. You don't belong here. The door slammed shut on its own, nearly crushing my hand. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stumbled back, gasping, as the staircase groaned beneath me like it was laughing. When I turned around, the landing was gone. Only the spiral remained, rising forever upward. And deep inside me, a truth I didn't want to accept began to bloom. The staircase was building itself, step by step, door by door, to keep me climbing. Capítulo 3. The whispering walls. You think silence is safe, but on that staircase, silence was the most dangerous sound of all, because it never lasted. The night after the door vanished, I found myself drawn back again. My body betrayed me, even as my mind screamed, "Stay away." My feet carried me upward. The spiral swallowed me whole. Halfway up I noticed it. The walls were breathing. At first it was subtle, a low exhale like the sigh of an old building. But then it grew louder, heavier, until every brick seemed alive, pulsing with invisible lungs. My hand brushed the wall and recoiled. It was warm, damp, almost like skin. And then the whispering began. Soft at first, a hiss crawling through the cracks. But when I pressed my ear against the wall, the words sharpened. My name, over and over. Emma. My throat tightened. I hadn't told anyone my name. No one in this building even knew me yet. And still, the walls murmured it like a secret prayer. I stumbled back, my heart pounding, but the voices followed. They rose with every step I climbed, multiplying, layering over one another, until the staircase became a choir of whispers. Emma, don't stop. Emma, higher. Emma, it's waiting. The more I listened, the more the whispers twisted into fragments of my past. Memories I never told a soul. My mother's voice the night she left. The boy who swore he loved me before breaking me apart. Even the exact words I muttered to myself alone, in the dark when I thought no one could hear. The staircase knew me. It remembered me. And then, silence. I dared to hope it was over. But out of nowhere, a voice unlike the rest hissed directly into my ear, so close I felt its breath scorch my skin. We're already inside. I spun around. No one was there, just the walls, just the endless climb. But something had changed. The staircase no longer felt empty. It felt occupied. Capítulo 4. The mirror on the step. By the fourth night, I no longer questioned why I kept returning to the staircase. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was compulsion, like a string tied around my ribs, dragging me higher against my will. That's when I saw it. On the 47th step, leaning against the wall, stood a mirror. Its frame was rusted, splintered, as if pulled from a grave. Dust clung to every inch of glass. Yet somehow my reflection shimmered clear. I should have kept walking, but the mirror, it wanted me. I leaned closer. At first it was me, exactly as I was. Tired eyes, trembling hands. But then the reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. The grin widened, unnatural, tearing across its face until it revealed too many teeth. My reflection tilted its head, studying me like prey. And then it spoke. My lips didn't move, but the voice bled out of the glass. You're not climbing alone. I stumbled back, nearly falling down the stairs. My reflection didn't mimic me. It stayed standing, calm, poised, staring with a hunger I couldn't name. Then the mirror shifted. It no longer showed the staircase I stood on. It showed a different one. The same spiral, but drenched in shadows. And in that other staircase, my reflection wasn't alone. Figures stood behind it, dozens of them, all pale, all silent. Their faces hidden in the dark, but their eyes glowing faintly, fixed on me. I blinked, and the mirror went black. My reflection was gone. The glass was empty, swallowing the light, swallowing me. And for one breathless second, I saw hands, dozens of them, pressing against the inside of the glass, clawing, desperate to break through. I ran. I didn't care if I tripped or fell. I bolted down the staircase, down to my apartment, slamming the door shut behind me. But when I collapsed against the wall, gasping for air, my blood turned to ice. There, on the inside of my apartment door, was a perfect smeared handprint, wet, cold, and it wasn't mine. Capítulo 5. The disappearing neighbors. The morning after the mirror, the building was quieter than usual. Too quiet. I stepped into the hallway, expecting the usual signs of life. Footsteps above me, doors slamming, the muffled hum of televisions. Instead, the air was hollow. My neighbor across the hall, Mr. Callahan, usually left his radio on loud enough for the whole floor to hear. But today, silence seeped under his door. I knocked. No answer. I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. Not even breathing. When I tried the handle, the door swung open easily. Inside, the apartment was spotless, eerily spotless. The bed perfectly made, dishes gleaming, not a trace of dust or clutter. It was as if no one had ever lived there. But I had spoken to him just yesterday. Hadn't I? My chest tightened. I rushed upstairs to check on the couple in 3B. Their door was wide open too. Same thing. A perfect apartment. Untouched. Uninhabited. One by one, I checked the floors. Every neighbor I thought I had, gone. Their homes scrubbed clean, emptied of memory. No furniture out of place. No photographs, no clothes in the closet, as though they had been erased from existence. I stumbled back into the staircase, clutching the railing. That's when it hit me. The higher I climbed, the fewer neighbors remained. It was a trade. Each step I took upward, the building claimed someone. I gripped the railing until my knuckles burned. Was I next? And then I heard it. A voice drifting from the shadows above. Not a whisper this time, but clear, sharp, and horribly familiar. Keep climbing, Emma. There's no one left but you. I looked up. On the landing above, where no one should have been, I saw Mr. Callahan. But his face was pale, his eyes hollow, his body stiff as if strung by invisible threads. He didn't move, except for his lips. Higher! I stumbled backward, nearly losing my footing, but the staircase held me like a trap. And deep inside, I knew the truth. The staircase wasn't just endless. It was hungry. Capítulo 6, The Bloodstains. The night after Callahan's face appeared on the landing, I swore I wouldn't climb again. I locked my door, shoved a chair against it, and tried to sleep. But the staircase doesn't take no for an answer. Around midnight, the whispers started again. They didn't come from the walls this time. They came from beneath the floorboards, seeping up through the cracks like steam. My name, over and over, until my body rose from the bed on its own. I found myself barefoot in the hallway. The stairwell waited, yawning wide, its railing gleaming as if polished in the dark. And then, I saw it. Blood. Thin streaks of it ran down the first step, soaking into the wood. Drop by drop, it dripped to the next stair, and the next, cascading like a crimson waterfall. The air reeked of iron and rot. I crouched low, my trembling fingers reaching out before I could stop myself. When they touched the stain, the liquid was warm, fresh. Someone had bled here recently. A single drop fell onto my wrist. My head snapped upward. The source wasn't the steps, it was higher. Something, or someone, was bleeding down from above. I climbed, slowly, my breath shallow, my heart pounding against my ribs. Each new level revealed more stains, larger splatters, until the wood was slick beneath my feet. And then, on the 66th step, I froze. There, in the center of the stair, was a puddle of blood so large it reflected my face like a mirror. My reflection wavered, distorted in red. For a second, I swore I saw my reflection smile, before sinking below the surface, swallowed whole by the liquid. The whisper came back, but this time it wasn't soft. It roared through the stairwell, vibrating the walls, rattling my bones. It's yours. I staggered back, staring at my hands. My palms were slick, dripping crimson. Blood oozed from the lines of my skin, though I felt no wound, no pain. The stains weren't left by someone else. They were waiting for me. Capítulo 7, The Child's Laughter. Blood can stain your hands, but laughter stains your soul. The night after the steps bled, I couldn't bring myself to wash the crimson from my skin. No matter how hard I scrubbed, the faint red shimmered beneath the water like it belonged to me now. I swore I wouldn't climb again, but the staircase has a way of deciding for you. This time it didn't whisper. It laughed. At first I thought it was coming from the apartment below. A soft giggle, high-pitched, innocent, the sound of a child playing hide-and-seek. But no children lived here, not anymore. The laughter rose, bouncing against the spiral walls, echoing upward. I stood at the base of the staircase, frozen, listening. It wasn't just one voice, it was many, dozens of children, their laughter overlapping, weaving into a sound both sweet and sickening. Step by step, the giggles lured me higher. My body obeyed without permission, drawn by that terrible music. The higher I climbed, the more distorted it became. Giggles curdled into snickers, then into shrieks, until it no longer sounded like play at all. It sounded like pain. On the 77th step, I stopped, and there they were. Tiny handprints smeared across the wall, wet as if freshly pressed. Small, shadowy figures darted just out of sight, their footsteps pattering like rain. And then, silence. A single child stepped into view. A girl, no older than 6, standing barefoot on the landing above. Her hair hung in wet clumps. Her dress clung to her body as though she had just drowned. She smiled at me, her teeth too sharp, her lips too red. "Play with us," she whispered. Her voice wasn't hers. It was layered with dozens of voices, all speaking at once. I couldn't move. My body was locked, trembling, my breath shallow. And then her smile collapsed into a scream so piercing it shattered the silence. The laughter returned, hundreds of voices crashing down like a wave, surrounding me, filling every corner of the staircase. I covered my ears, but it was inside me now. Inside my skull, inside my bones, and through the deafening chorus of children's laughter, one phrase rose above them all, chilling and unmistakable. You'll never come back down. Capítulo 8. The Endless Fall. There comes a point when fear becomes unbearable. When the walls whisper, when the children laugh, when blood soaks every step, there's only one thought left: escape. I told myself I would end it, not by climbing higher, not by listening anymore, but by jumping. That night, I climbed higher than ever before, past the bloodstains, past the handprints, past the doors that vanished into nothing. The air grew thinner, heavier, pressing down on my chest. My legs trembled, but I didn't stop. On the 99th step, I looked over the railing. The bottom stretched below me, dizzying, endless. The spiral coiled downward like a serpent devouring its own tail. My head spun. My pulse raced. If the staircase wanted me to climb forever, I would break the rules. I would fall instead. I gripped the railing, whispered a final prayer, and let go. The air tore past me. My hair whipped against my face. The spiral blurred as I plummeted downward. Faster, deeper. My stomach lurched. My lungs clawed for air. And then impact. But it wasn't the ground. It was the first step. I lay there, sprawled across the bottom stair, gasping, heart slamming against my ribs. I looked up in disbelief. The staircase towered above me, unchanged, patient. I had fallen, only to land where it all began. I scrambled to my feet, panic rising in my throat. My knees were scraped raw, but it didn't matter. I ran for my apartment door. But when I reached for the knob, my blood froze. The number on the door wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone's. Painted in dripping black strokes were 3 words I'll never forget. Start again, Emma. Behind me, the staircase groaned as if amused. And then the footsteps began. Climbing, slow, deliberate, coming down toward me. Capítulo 9. The Visitors. The footsteps were not mine. They were heavy, dragging, echoing against the walls as they descended. I pressed myself flat against the apartment door, praying it would open, but the knob refused to turn. The painted words, "Start again, Emma," gleamed wet as if freshly written. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and then I saw them. Figures emerging from the spiral above, one by one. At first they looked human, neighbors I thought I'd lost, their faces pale and slack, eyes empty. Mr. Callahan, the couple from 3B, even the little drowned girl. They shuffled downward, their movements jerky, unnatural, as though pulled by invisible strings. Their mouths hung open, but no sound came, only silence, thicker than any scream. Then all at once their heads snapped toward me, every single one. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, catching what little light the staircase offered. And then their mouths opened wider, tearing at the corners, until their jaws looked ready to break. A sound burst from them, low at first, like a hum, then louder, a vibration that rattled the iron railing, a chorus of moans stitched together into one unbearable note. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't just in the air, it was inside me, vibrating through my bones, drilling into my skull. The nearest figure, Callahan, stretched out a hand toward me. His fingers dripped something black and tar-like. It hissed as it hit the steps. I stumbled backward, pressing harder against the locked door. My breath hitched, my heart slammed. And that's when I realized. They weren't trying to pull me down. They were trying to welcome me. Arms outstretched, voices vibrating, eyes burning. They beckoned me forward, inviting me to join their descent. And the worst part? For just one flicker of a second I wanted to. Because in their hollow stares, I saw something I hadn't felt in weeks. Belonging. Capítulo 10. The staircase moves. Staircases aren't supposed to move. They're supposed to stay still, solid, safe, a path you can trust beneath your feet. But this staircase had never been safe. The visitors lingered above me, swaying like broken puppets, their arms still outstretched. I pressed my back against the cold door, searching for an escape, when the entire stairwell shuddered beneath me. At first, I thought it was an earthquake. The iron railing rattled, dust rained from the ceiling, the steps groaned under invisible weight. But then I realized this wasn't the world moving, it was the staircase itself. The spiral twisted, stretching and contracting like the coils of a snake. The steps began to shift, bending, curling in impossible directions. What had once been a straight climb now folded back on itself, tilting sideways until I had to grab the railing to keep from sliding off. And the sound was unbearable. The wood didn't just creak, it screamed. Each shift of the steps was a shriek, like nails dragging against bone. I staggered upward because there was no other choice. But the higher I climbed, the stranger it became. Steps grew longer, then shorter. Some narrowing to the width of a hand, others stretching wide like slabs of stone. The walls pulsed, literally pulsed, like a heart beating in rhythm with my own panicked breaths. And with each beat, the staircase inhaled and exhaled, dragging me deeper inside its chest. Behind me, the visitors moved with ease, gliding across the chaos as though the staircase bent to serve them. Their pale eyes tracked me, unblinking, as I scrambled like an insect in their cage. And then, the railing vanished. One moment, my hand clutched cold iron. The next, my grip closed on empty air. I screamed as my body pitched sideways, tumbling off the stairs. But before I could fall, the steps themselves shifted, curling upward to catch me, forcing me forward. It was alive, and it wanted me to climb. Breathless, shaking, I staggered onto a landing that hadn't been there before. A single step stretched ahead, longer than the others, glowing faintly in the darkness. The visitors stopped, their heads tilted, their mouths open in silent approval. The staircase had made a decision. It wasn't just guiding me, it was leading me. And God help me, I followed. Capitolo 11, the diary on the step. The staircase led me to it. Not a door this time, not blood, not laughter. A book. It lay on the 999th step, waiting. The cover was leather, cracked and blackened, as though it had been pulled from fire. No dust touched it. No cobweb dared cling to it. My hands shook as I reached down. The moment my fingers brushed the cover, the air shifted. The whispers stopped. The visitors froze. Everything fell silent, as if the staircase itself was holding its breath. I opened it. The handwriting was jagged, furious, carved into the pages so deeply I could feel the grooves under my fingertips. But what chilled me wasn't the ink, it was the words. It was my story. Every step I had taken, every thought, every scream, written down in perfect, horrifying detail. The day I moved in, the footprint on the first stair, the mirror, the laughter, even the moment I decided to jump. All of it. I flipped page after page, my breath ragged, desperate for an answer. And then I reached the final entry. My throat closed as I read it. Emma finds the diary on the 999th step. She reads the last words, written in blood. She doesn't realize the book is waiting for her hand. And there, below the line, a blank space, wide enough for one more sentence. The pen was already there, heavy, cold, wet. I picked it up without meaning to. My body trembled, my heart screaming to stop. But my hand refused. Slowly, as though guided by another force, I pressed the pen to the page, and I began to write. The letters formed on their own, curling into words I didn't choose. Emma bleeds. Pain lanced through my palm. I dropped the pen and gasped. Blood trickled from a fresh cut across my skin, dripping onto the paper. The diary drank it eagerly, the red seeping into the page, glowing like fire. The whispers returned, louder than ever, joyful, hungry. And in that moment I realized the staircase didn't just want my steps. It wanted my story, and I was running out of pages. Capitolo 12, the final door. The diary bled in my hands. Its pages throbbed like a living heart, drinking every drop that spilled from me. When the blood was gone, when my hand was dry, the book snapped shut on its own. And then I heard it, a sound I hadn't heard since my very first night. A whisper. Not many voices this time, just one, low, patient, smiling. "You're ready." The staircase shifted again, bending, groaning, guiding me upward. My legs moved as though chained to an invisible rhythm. Step after step I climbed. Until the shadows ahead broke into something else. Light. A faint white glow leaked from a seam in the darkness. The staircase delivered me to it, a landing I had never seen before. At its center stood a door. Not scorched like the first, not rotting like the others. This one was pure, white as bone, smooth as glass. It pulsed with light through its cracks, as though something blinding lived just beyond. My breath hitched, my body trembled. This was it, the end or the beginning. I reached for the handle. Cold, too cold. But before I could turn it, I froze. From the other side came a sound. Not whispers, not laughter, not moans. My voice. "Don't open it, Emma." I staggered back, my own voice pleading, desperate, echoing as though trapped inside. "Please, don't let it out." My hand hovered over the knob. My pulse thundered in my ears. The door pulsed harder, leaking light like blood through a wound. Behind me, the visitors gathered on the steps, silent, watching. Their hollow eyes burned with expectation. I was the key, and this was the lock. I pressed my palm to the door. The glow seared my skin, sinking into me, burning through every vein. My reflection, the twisted smile, the sharp teeth, the hollow eyes, flashed across the white surface. And then the whisper returned, louder, closer than it had ever been. "Turn it. Finish the climb." I closed my eyes, my hand tightened, and with a single breath I twisted the handle. The light exploded. The staircase roared, and everything I was ended. Capítulo 30, the other side. Light swallowed me whole. For a moment, there was nothing but brilliance, burning so fiercely it erased my body, my thoughts, my breath. I thought I was free. But freedom doesn't blind you. It traps you. When the light dimmed, I found myself standing on a staircase. Not the same one. No, this was worse. It was inverted. The steps coiled downward instead of up, each one black as obsidian, glistening like wet stone. The walls were gone. The staircase floated in a void, stretching into endless night. Every direction was wrong. Gravity twisted, pulling me in ways that made my stomach lurch. I turned, hoping the white door was still behind me. It wasn't. Instead, the visitors stood there. But they were different now. They were clearer, sharper. Their hollow eyes glowed brighter, their pale mouths dripping with something dark. They no longer shuffled like puppets. They stood tall, still, watching me as if I had finally joined them. And then I realized, these weren't strangers. They were me. All of them. Dozens of versions of myself, each one twisted at a different age, a different moment. My child self with hollow eyes. My teenage self with lips cracked and bleeding. My adult self, pale and ruined. Every Emma I could have been. Every Emma I had abandoned. Standing side by side, staring with a hunger I couldn't bear. One stepped forward. Her smile was sharp, splitting her face in half. "You've climbed so far," she said. Her voice was mine, but deeper, broken. "Now you fall." The steps beneath me shifted. Not up, not down. They folded inward, wrapping around me like ribs. I screamed and tried to run, but the staircase bent, twisting, carrying me where it wanted. Downward, always downward. The void howled. My echoes stretched for miles, swallowed and thrown back at me. My other selves followed, walking calmly, eyes fixed, their whispers chasing me like claws. I stumbled, fell to my knees, and when I looked up, a door waited. Not white this time, black. The handle shaped like a jaw, its teeth bared. Behind it something breathed, heavy, patient, ancient. And for the first time I knew the truth. The staircase never ends. Because it doesn't climb toward freedom. It spirals into something else. And I had just crossed the threshold of its true beginning. Capítulo 14, the choice of steps. The black door did not open. It waited, silent, hungry. And beneath my feet the staircase shifted again. The obsidian steps rippled like water, spreading outward in all directions until the void bloomed with paths. Hundreds of staircases spiraling off into the dark. Each one different, each one calling. I stood frozen, my breath shallow, because every step was no longer stone. They were memories. The first path glittered faintly, and when I peered down I saw my childhood bedroom. Toys scattered across the carpet, the glow of a nightlight painting the walls. And there I was, small, innocent, crying into my pillow after my mother left. The second staircase showed my teenage years. The boy who swore he loved me, his hand on mine, the warmth of trust before the sting of betrayal. Another step revealed the moment I packed my life into boxes, chasing freedom but dragging loneliness behind me like chains. Each path was a wound. Each step a scar I thought had healed. The staircase demanded a choice. To climb was to relive. To descend was to drown. My knees buckled as the whispers began again, louder, harsher. The other Emmas, the ones who followed me into this void, stood at the edges of the paths, their hollow eyes burning. "Choose," they hissed. "Bleed again, or fall forever." I pressed my palms to my ears, but the memories rose anyway, swelling, spilling into me. I felt the sting of my mother's goodbye, the weight of every lie, the shame of every secret. Each step beckoned me closer, forcing me to decide which part of myself to sacrifice first. I tried to run, but no matter which direction I turned, the stairs shifted, twisting back into choices I didn't want to make. And then I saw it. One path that didn't shimmer. One staircase carved in shadow, deeper, darker than all the others. Its steps weren't memories. They were blank, an unwritten future. The other Emmas froze, their whispers cut short. They stared at me with hollow fury, as if I'd broken their rules. My heart pounded, my skin burned, and yet, I stepped toward the shadowed path. For the first time, the staircase hesitated. And that's when I realized this was the only choice it hadn't made for me. Capítulo 15, the staircase that never ends. The shadowed staircase pulsed beneath my feet, alive with possibility. For once, there were no whispers, no visitors, no memories clawing at my skin, only silence. But silence is never empty. It's a promise. I climbed. The steps groaned, soft at first, then louder, until the sound became a rhythm, like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. The staircase throbbed in sync with me, pulling me higher, deeper into its blackness. Behind me, the other Emmas screamed. Their hollow eyes flared with rage as they stretched their hands toward me, clawing at the void. But the staircase carried me forward, faster, as if it too wanted to escape them. And then, it ended. I reached a landing that wasn't a landing. No walls, no doors, just a mirror, towering, endless, swallowing the horizon. I stared into it, breath caught in my throat, and for the first time I didn't see myself. Not one Emma, not dozens. Not even the hollow-eyed versions that haunted me. I saw stairs, millions of them. Spirals coiling into infinity, stacked atop one another like veins in a monstrous body. A network of staircases, each one with its own prisoner, its own climber, trapped in their own endless loops. And I understood. The staircase wasn't a place. It was a prison. A machine that fed on lives, stories, souls, recycling them step by step, page by page, until nothing human remained. The mirror pulsed and the reflection shifted. I saw myself, Emma, still climbing. Not here, not now, somewhere else, on another staircase, repeating the same fate, over and over. There was never a way out. There was only through. The black steps beneath me cracked, splitting open, and from the fissures rose the voices, the whispers, the laughter, the screams, all merging into one deafening truth. You were never climbing up. You were falling in. The mirror shuddered. My reflection turned, its eyes glowing, its lips curling into that too-wide smile I had first seen on the 47th step. And then it spoke. Not a whisper, not a scream. My voice. "Welcome home." The staircase groaned, coiling tighter, pulling me into the glass. The last thing I felt was the cold kiss of my own reflection pressing against me, before it swallowed me whole. And in that infinite darkness I finally understood the name. It wasn't the staircase that never ends. It was me.
Epilogue, the first step again. They found the building years later. Or maybe it was days. Time doesn't flow the same here. The police report called it abandoned. No tenants. No furniture. Just dust and silence. No one remembered who lived there, or when it had been occupied last. But there was one detail in the file they couldn't explain. On the staircase, at the very bottom, there was a footprint. Fresh, wet, pointing upward, and next to it, a book. Its leather cover cracked, its pages filled with a story no one admitted to writing. The last line trailed off mid-sentence, still wet with ink, waiting for another hand. The officer who picked it up swore she heard something behind her. A giggle, a whisper, the sound of a breath brushing against her ear. Take the first step. She dropped the book, but not before her eyes caught the final words scratched into the last page. The staircase never ends. And when she looked back at the stairs, she swore there were more of them than before.